The tour finals, Duda and Magnus was playing here in the studio. I think Magnus had some crushing results against him then. So if he can find back to that form, it could be a good finish to the day for Magnus.
All right. Ding, ding, ding. It's what we hear, David. The game has started. And what are we seeing?
We're seeing the Sicilian defense, one of the most popular openings in chess, but also from black, one of the most counter-attacking openings in chess. And Magnus hasn't handled it in the traditional way. He's putting his own personal stamp on this opening. White's queen coming out very early. We normally recommend not to do this. So definitely don't try this at home, especially if you're first starting out the game. White's queen now, attacked by the black knight, is going to have to retreat. Queens are the most valuable pieces, so you need to save them for later. Anytime the queen is attacked, she has to retreat because she's always going to get hit by lower valued pieces. So Magnus losing some time with his queen there, but he's opened up the center, and he is now also ready as white to castle the king off to the queen side, to the left side of the board. That is quite rare in chess in general, but in the open Sicilian, it's one of the most fighting ways to handle the position. And I think Magnus is going to do that over the next 2 or 3 turns. White's king is going to go off to that left side. Black's king is probably going to park itself on the opposite flank, and then we're going to see both sides race to try and attack the enemy monarch. And yeah, right now, rare position, Jovanka?
It is a rare position. I'm just looking at who's played this with the white pieces, and I can only see one grandmaster, Predka. Apart from that, it's just been international masters and very strong amateur players. So not the most popular opening choice. So maybe Magnus is resorting to his old strategy of just kind of catching his opponent unawares and in some sideline.
Yeah, and it shows he's over that quick draw he had earlier against Ding with black. Maybe he wasn't in a fighting mood, but now he definitely is, because this opening with white is really, really dynamic. Already there's an imbalanced pawn structure, especially if, as mentioned, both kings castle on opposite flanks. That, in chess, that's one of the most kind of double-edged things. So right now, white just pushes a pawn, solidifies the white pawn stronghold in the center, and yeah, we'll see black start to develop pieces now as well, starting with this dark squared bishop on a great diagonal. We should mention this black bishop. It's a defensive piece, but also potentially an attacking piece too. Early days, but I'm excited. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch later.
OK, cool.
I was a little bit surprised, actually, by black developing that dark squared bishop. It looks like the most natural move on the board. After all, black wants to get his king to safety, but is it going to be so safe? Because, you know, as David highlighted, the white king is planning to go on the opposite side, to the left side. And when that happens, when the kings are on different sides of the board, it's war. And you're going to see trades of the dark squared bishops, you're going to see pawn storms, you're going to see everything. So I thought maybe it was kind of a sophisticated way of playing to delay that dark squared bishop and instead concentrating on developing the other pieces.
Yeah, I guess, Jovanka, as black here, you would be afraid of quite a thematic idea, one we see time and time again in this type of position, the bishop coming and trading off black's pride and joy. And, OK, Magnus not committing his king yet, but this type of idea is typical. We see a trade here. You'd never, ever want to capture white's bishop, because this would allow the white queen in the vicinity of your king. And now there would be checkmating ideas all over the place. This black king lacking defenders, only one real defender this night, and that's not going to be enough on the dark squares. So Magnus is going to keep that one up his sleeve for later. Instead of going for this bishop trade first, he has actually, if we catch up with the game position, just improved his knight. So just brought his knight towards the center. He's waiting for black to put his king on this side, and then he's going to go on the attack. And the attack includes moves as the one we mentioned, getting rid of this defender, but also if Ginger GM was here in the studio with us, Simon Williams, he would no doubt throw this pawn up the board in order to activate the white rook actually on this line towards the black king later on. Push this pawn forward and try to initiate some trades to open up this key attacker.
And Ginger GM will be with us in the studio tomorrow. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, so right now it's tension. Neither side really wants to commit the king, because once you show your opponent, there we go, just a bishop move instead. Once you show your opponent where you're going to put the king, that is the signal for them to attack. So often you delay it and delay it and delay it as long as possible, because then your opponent can't commit to the attack yet. If white went on the attack on one side, then the black king maybe would run to the other side of the board. So that's why they're playing with pieces, and they're actually disobeying the classical rules here of castling your king as early as possible. Normally, you want to get your king to safety on one of the flanks, but here they're just hoping that they're safe enough in the middle for now, the two kings.
And, well, Magnus has now posed a very pressing question to Duda. He's attacked the knight, he's attacked the bishop with his knight, and he's saying, hey, do you want to make a trade? And instinctively, I'm like, no, because I like my bishops. But this is the type of position where every move that you make matters. So would you just come out with the queen to the side of the board, leave the bishop there, or would you kind of go, oh, sound the retreat?
Yeah, very good question, Ivanka. I guess once you've said A, you normally say B, and OK, he does commit his king. If Black's bishop did run away from a potential trade, then you've moved your bishop twice in the opening. You don't normally want to move the same piece twice. So you're right, White definitely will be tempted now to use the knight and capture Black's light-squared bishop. But knights and bishops worth roughly the same. It's not clear that that necessarily benefits White yet. I think Black just needed to save as much time as possible. And now he's ready to castle with the king because White doesn't have this idea that we highlighted of White's dark-squared bishop coming and trading off the bishop next to the Black king. So Duda kind of waited to an opportune moment and he has committed the king. The computer evaluation, though, shot up in White's favour. So maybe thinking that White's potential attack against the Black king is going to be quicker than any potential attack that Black can organise against White's king. And there we go. Simon Williams would be proud watching, I think, from his hotel room in Oslo, throwing pawns now towards the opponent's king. This is what we want to see. No quick draws, just both sides attacking each other. And Black yet to organise an attack, but White is ready. If that pawn pushes one square further forward, White's rook in the corner is ready to join the attack and actually maybe even decide the game quite quickly.
Harry the h-pawn. And that is one of those fashion moves, basically, in chess, super popular with every top player now?
Yeah, in certain openings, this type of pawn push has always been popular, but now computers, modern computers, especially AI like AlphaZero, they have showed that pushing the pawns in front of your rooks, actually, that can be even more effective than humans previously thought. So, yeah, in all types of positions, all types of random positions, that pawn is whizzing up the board and causing trouble now. And, OK, meanwhile, Duda centralises his knight.
Yeah, I have to say our friend Simon Williams was a real pioneer in that field.
Yeah.
He was doing it long before anyone thought it was any good. And in fact, everyone thought that he was a bit nuts. They were just like, Simon plays this rook move, pawn move, anywhere, anytime, against anything. And, OK, we do have some moves because that h-pawn, Harry, has found itself on the 5th row.
I mean, that is so... Whoa, look
that
at
is
that
scary.
h-pawn.
Yeah, and it's now gone. And now you can see, as David highlighted, that rook in the corner, that now has a nice open line. And all White needs to do now is start attacking along the dark squares.
Yeah, and there's a real dilemma right now for Duda as well. Do you capture with this pawn, but now this rook is on a completely... He has done this. It's on a completely open line towards the Black king. Now all you need to do is really eliminate this defender, and then there's going to be checkmating ideas all over the place. The other option was actually tempting as well, but less appealing, because now there's an open diagonal towards the Black king in this way. So either capture there had pros and cons. Duda, though, really playing with fire at this early stage. And look at the evaluation bar. It really likes White's position. I would be very, very tempted at some point to just move this knight out the way, either this way or even retreat it one square. And then if you can just bring your bishop, eliminate this guy, it's going to be checkmate. For example, if Black takes a timeout, bishop moves forward, and no matter what Black does now, it's just checkmate. The White queen jumps in, and the queen and rook together are the most fearsome duo, even stronger than the queen and knight sometimes. And this is already checkmate. And this is with natural moves. We could see a checkmate in under 20 moves, unless... OK, he's actually gone for this, Magnus Carlsen. Unless Duda's really coming up with some genius defence, I think we're going to see Magnus just crush this game. This is already a deadly idea. If this bishop drops, if this bishop gets exchanged, then Black's king is doomed.
How impressed are you with the world champion right now?
Well, it is impressive, but at the same time, I'm a little bit shocked by Duda's play because this is very thematic. Everything that David's highlighted is the dream of every English chess player. We love this kind of frame of attack. Push the h-pawn up the board, trade of the dark squares, checkmate along the h-line. I mean, we've kind of made it into a formula, and I'm just a bit shocked that Duda hasn't he's taken big risks and hasn't quite taken care of his king.
He's allowed Magnus to get everything he wanted, and it's still such an early stage in the game. Yeah, Jovanka, you made me chuckle there because you're right. In kind of world chess in general, they regard the English as having no culture, no sophistication.
Really?
We see our opponent's king, we just go for the opponent's king. It's like caveman chess. In Russia, you know, they just like to control everything, take their long-term strategic advantages. In England, we just want to go for checkmate. But sometimes it's effective, and Simon Williams has perfected that art, and Magnus now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's making it look simple. It's just step by step. Open a line for your rook, get rid of your opponent's best defender, and then checkmate. And Duda knows, I mean, you can see in his body language, he knows he's already struggling. And the more I look at it, the more I think he's going to have to take some drastic measures, maybe even some crazy sacrifices just to survive another few more moves. But it's not going to be easy.
Yeah.
It's already back to the wall defensive job for Duda.
It kind of reminded me of, your comment really reminded me of two chess variations that we've named. So one of them is called the 150 attack. And under the English grading system, I think 150 is round about, I would say, 1700, right? So a strong player, but not contending at the highest levels. And the 150 attack is basically named like that because it says even a 1700 player can play this attack very efficiently. And then we have another one, which is kind of along the modes of this, which is called the Barry. And you're like, well, why is it called the Barry? And it's like we have this expression, any Tom, Dick and Harry. Well, it's like any Tom, Dick and Barry could play this. Yeah.
The Brits and the puns.
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of the things I fell in love with when I first started chess. Every opening name has a quirky reason behind it. I mean, the hippopotamus defense, the orangutan opening, there's plenty of openings, and there's always a sneaky reason. Some are named after great players, of course, some are named after places, but yeah, those ones you mentioned, Jovanka, and actually those ones have very similar ideas to this opening. So it's always the same idea. You put your bishop on one square, you line it up with the queen, you open up the rook, and checkmate. And yeah, maybe Duda just not familiar, well, of course he's familiar with these ideas, but maybe just not familiar with the defensive ideas that he could have employed. Yeah. I think his big mistake was committing the black king. He should have kept Magnus guessing for a few more moves. Once he put the king on this side of the board, that was like a red flag to a bull. Magnus immediately going for the king, and this is just a deadly threat. White's bishop going and trading itself off for the black dark squared bishop. This is one to remember for everyone at home.
Wow.
So is there any way for Duda to defend? I mean, it looks... I don't see a natural way, to be honest with you. Yeah, maybe the knight can come and try to block the rook's line on the corner.
Yeah, so the black knight could maybe plug this file temporarily, but it's definitely a short-term measure. I mean, once white castles the king, at some point soon, the pawn will come up and dislodge this knight, and then it's back where you came from. The black knight has to retreat, and then the same ideas again. I just have a feeling that at some point in the next few moves, for example, if the rook comes across, the bishop comes up, black is just going to have to step back with his bishop. This bishop is just worth too much. And even if it comes at the cost of material, at least after bishop takes rook, now queen takes, the queen comes to the defense and stops white from entering on this square because the queen covers it. So I think black's going to have to give up something in order to just survive. And we should also mention what Magnus has just done. He's put his knight on this square, meaning that any trade, for example, knight takes, will just be met by a capture, and black loses even more time. And every move matters now. Black can't afford to lose time just making trades because it's all about the king. And this idea is still in the air.
That is the sort of the name for the Meltwater Champions Chess Tour this year. Every move matters.
Yeah, every move does matter here. And I think if Duda doesn't find an accurate defense, or, I mean, if he doesn't find something really, really sneaky to trick Magnus, Magnus's moves are just so easy to find and logical. And we could be looking at what we call a miniature in chess. That's a win under 20 moves.
Ooh,
you nearly never see that at top level. Yeah, so I'm liking that tweet as well. Me, blunders, and Magnus Carlsen.
Our funny viewers.
Yeah, they're great. And keep those tweets coming. And remember, you just use the hashtag #ChessChamps. So, yeah.
Yeah, poor Duda, head in hands. Yeah. He's been on such a hot streak, actually, the last couple of games, but suddenly his chances might be disappearing.
Because it was, yesterday, the last game was his first victory in the tournament. So maybe he was riding high and thinking, yes, I've turned my luck around. And then, OK, he meets Magnus. Magnus tricks him like this. And now he's struggling. And there's no decent way, because even the lines where David showed where Black tries to sacrifice, just give away some material just to stay alive, it didn't look great.
Yeah.
It didn't look great because none of Black's pieces were in great squares.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Magnus there, he knows he's done the hard work, but maybe feeling the effects of COVID still, just covering his head, maybe just trying to work out some variations, calculate. That's often the body language you see of chess players. They're often looking at the ceiling, as in the Queen's Gambit show, or they're looking off to the side or head in hands. I often pretend sometimes I'm genuinely having a nap at the board, but normally I just close my eyes when I'm trying to calculate. And
Have you fallen asleep by the board, David?
Oh, too many times.
Really?
I shouldn't say this on air, but I was playing for England lately and I fell asleep for around 20 minutes. So that was...
in over-the-board classical chess, of course.
I hope nobody's watching from the England team. But, yeah, luckily I woke up and I still had enough time on my clock to... I made a draw against Artemiev in that game, so it didn't cost me anything too much, but... Yeah, you need to be fresh, and maybe the air wasn't great in that room.
Exactly, Joachim. So in a classroom, I can remember this, falling asleep in a classroom. What is the problem in a classroom or in a room when people start falling asleep? Is it too warm? Is it some particles?
It's the CO2.
It is okay.
Definitely. So that's very common in office environments, and people sitting down to take decisions, and they discuss for hours and hours and hours, and then they think they're going to be able to make a decision by the end of the meeting when they've built up all the CO2 in the meeting room and nobody's thinking straight. And that's usually when you think like, same with when you're driving a car, you think like you're tired, maybe you need a coffee, or it's usually the CO2. So usually what you need is just fresh air.
Just open the window.
Open the window. If you're driving in the meeting room, open the door, things like that. Simple tricks.
Wow.
So the raising CO2 is very the common reason for the drowsiness you're feeling.
So, but in businesses then, if you, like you say, they're in a meeting for a couple of hours, and then they're going to take that huge decision and agree on...
Decision should be taken in the start of the meeting.
Or if you at least say, okay, half an hour break, everyone go to the park, and we meet in half an hour, and then we decide.
Or take the meeting outside in the park.
Even better.
Even better.
Wow. Whoa. And where did Magnus go? And what happens to the bar?
Yeah, Duda just retreating his bishop. Actually, the bishop came from this square a few moves ago, so that doesn't help Black's position at all. White does have a winning advantage now, but Magnus, is he disconnected?
Yeah.
If he is he going to get back into time?
Smiling Magnus, coming back. And I guess he has a reason to smile. The bar is loving the situation, but has he logged off? Is he disconnected? And remind us, David, what are the rules if we do have disconnection for one player?
So I think if the player reconnects within 30 seconds, they just give them their time back and the game goes on. It might be even longer than that, they get given their time back. But if they are disconnected for the rest of their remaining time on the clock, so if Magnus doesn't get back in the next 12 or so minutes, then I think he would be defaulted the game. So, let's hope he gets back. We want to see how this game proceeds. I don't think Duda would want to win by kind of default either. So,
and it could also, of course, be that he is connected, but his camera just logged off. So they are saying he is logged in.
And is Duda still connected, or is he just very still?
Yeah, that's true. No, Did he freeze as well?
No, he's still there. I saw him shaking his head. So he's just in full concentration mode. He knows he needs to use absolutely everything to survive. And going back to your when you were talking about CO2 levels, is this the reason why everyone falls asleep on the plane?
Ooh.
Because, I once...
I always fall asleep on the plane.
I once came back from a flight from Gibraltar to London, and I went to the bathroom, and after I came back, I noticed every single person was asleep. And I thought, there must be something in the air.
There's some speculations around that.
Yeah.
Oh, OK, we're in conspiracy land. OK, we better not go
it's on purpose.
Maybe.
Really?
I don't know. There's a lot of conspiracy theories, obviously, when it comes to wanting the passengers just to sleep throughout the entire trip. But I don't think that's the case. But recirculating the air might be one of the reasons. They have like really good HEPA filters, filters to remove like particles and potential, harmful things in the air. Mm-hmm. But the CO2 isn't something you just can, remove from the air. Then you would need to have fresh air in. And to be honest, I don't know about the aerodynamics on bringing fresh air in airplanes, but who knows?
Yeah.
And in my defense, by the way, this falling asleep story, there were 500 people in one room, and I think the CO2 levels must have been super high.
I heard about that, actually, that the air was very, very dry and,
Yeah, so I've got my excuses ready.
Yeah. But there is a reason Airthings and the Meltwater Champions Chess are working together. It's the perfect fit, right? Chess and air quality, it's just so important. And these huge tournaments and chess Olympiads and stuff like that, we have so many players in the same room and playing classical over-the-board chess for hours and hours.
Yeah, both online and over-the-board chess.
Yeah.
I mean, online, it's important in the home office, of course, to have perfect conditions. I mean, every little detail matters. But also, in these massive tournaments, as I mentioned, 500 players. There's no windows in this tournament that I mentioned, for example, and tournament organisers really got to take this into consideration. There have been health problems among some players suffering. I mean, if you're playing 2 weeks in a room like that for 6-7 hours at a time every day, it can get difficult. So, the older I've got, the more I'm aware of these things. But air quality is definitely one of the big factors for chess players.
And obviously in sports and in the top level of sports, we know margins is everything, right? So to actually practice and play in the best possible air quality, I guess, could actually be the difference between success and failure.
Absolutely, and why take the chance?
And Magnus is back.
Yes.
So
Back connected, but he's been thinking for almost 5 minutes on this move. This is one of those critical moments in the game.
I think Magnus's best move is also the most obvious move. So, I'm not sure whether he was properly disconnected the whole time or whether he'll get his time back. But either way, Magnus, once he refocuses, will for sure try and go towards that black king. And just to show what we expect to happen, right now, black's bishop has just retreated. The idea behind that move is to actually free up this square for the black knight. The knight trying to jump in to attack the white queen, attack the white dark squared bishop. But this is very logical. As we mentioned several times already, the bishop does jump in. Magnus has played this. This is the key defender, black's dark squared bishop. And once you remove that, there's going to be checkmating ideas all over the place. And actually, Duda now resorting to the plan Jovanka mentioned, bringing the knight to the side. But actually, I think there's a few ways to win this game on the spot. You can even just, for example, trade the bishops off. If the black knight retreats and takes, then the white queen jumps in with this checkmating idea we mentioned. If the black king recaptures instead, then white can even sacrifice right now. Rook takes knight, getting rid of that key defender. And white's, for example, after a knight trade, can just jump in with the queen. This is a check. This black king is not going to survive. It's going to move to the side. Black can just play his next few moves on autopilot because white's queen is just going to do all the damage. And now all white needs to do, for example, move the bishop out the way, move the king out the way next move, and then swing the remaining rook into the game. This black king has no defenders around it. It's going to end in checkmate at some point. So this one, I'm not sure Magnus even needs to risk any potential sacrifices. But right now, if he just wants to take a timeout, he could even just take this knight, for example. He can also just castle his king. But I would keep things simple, and he does do that, taking this bishop. And I'm expecting to see some clever moves by Magnus, but he will surely finish this one off.
yeah, and a lot of enjoyment for everyone because we do enjoy a very convincing attack. So now we're waiting to see whether rook takes knight, and it's on the board.
It's happened.
It made sense, just blast open the king because opening lines is like the currency for attack. The more lines that you open against the king, the more vulnerable and exposed he is. So now we're expecting knight takes knight, just as you said.
That's at first I was about to suggest the white queen jumping in with the check first, but that would have allowed black's knight to come back and block. So now this move, this series of moves that I mentioned, it's actually happening on the board. The other reason Magnus can go for this is because black's king can never escape. The king has to move now, and at the very, very minimum, there's a safety net for Magnus. He could just give checks forever with his queen, and black's king cannot escape, so that would end in a repetition and a draw. So it's always nice in chess to have a safety net. So even if you calculate wrong, even if you take a risk and it kind of backfires, to be able to make a draw at the very least is a nice thing just to have in your pocket. And now black's king steps back in this way, and there we go. The bishop moves. The white king is about to evacuate the first rank, or maybe even just castle. And then that white rook in the left-hand corner, it's not doing anything, but it is going to be the piece that delivers the killer blow. Black's king is just completely helpless. No defenders around it.
Yeah.
What to do? Black's pieces are still asleep. Look at the black queen, look at the black rooks, unable to jump to the defence.
And there's no connection as well. You know, we've always said, actually, it's been a theme in this tournament, that when the defending queen is offside, cannot get to her king, then this is when the black king is the most vulnerable. And here, I mean, there's just no connection. This bishop that is proudly sitting on the e6 square, well, it gets in the way.
Yeah. Actually, even if you give black 3 moves with the black queen, there's no way to get round to the defence of her king. So, yeah, that's how helpless Duda is feeling right now. He's leaning back, and body language in chess, we've talked about it a bit, but if a player leans back, either they're very confident or they know their position is hopeless.
Yeah, well, we'll certainly make some of our Twitter audience very happy, because Magnus, of course, has a lot of support. And Carle Rocher says, chess champs, chess, let's go. Magnus in her selfie. And there she is supporting Magnus. And Lavinia Bratis says, chess all the way. And this time she has a chess maestro biscuit.
Ooh.
Very, very tasty. We're jealous.
Never heard of it.
They sell them here in Norway.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, we have a result. Yep, Jan-Krzystof Duda has resigned. Magnus Carlsen is actually shaking his head, but it is a win for the world champion, an important win for him, actually.